A major shift in the race for governor today as Sarah Rodriguez suspends her campaign with less than a month to go before the Democratic primary. It comes after a week of scrutiny over her campaign finance reports, causing her to fire her campaign manager. Chief political reporter Jason Zimmerman breaks down what it means moving forward and what new information we've just learned.
This announcement came after some of her fellow Democrats called on Sarah Rodriguez to drop out, fearing the issue was too much of a distraction. She was also previously endorsed by Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who are now hearing from sources that Crowley will relaunch his campaign for governor Saturday morning. Voters across Wisconsin waking up Friday morning to a video posted to social media by Sarah Rodriguez.
As we have continued to dig into our financial reports, it has become clear that there are issues that would be an ongoing distraction, not just for this campaign, but for the primary and for Wisconsin.
Rodriguez announcing the end of her campaign after a week of questions and a Monday news conference where she spoke about the firing of her campaign manager for what she described as serious mismanagement and financial inaccuracies. It all started, she says, the week before when TV ads did not air that were supposed to, leading her to find out she has less cash on hand than she was led to believe. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who endorsed her after dropping out himself, now expected to relaunch his campaign.
It even gets in, there are a number of challenges. I mean, one, go back and look at the polling from Marquette in March. David Crowley was among Democratic voters, had 25% name ID. That is not a great place to start. It takes many, many dollars to take you from that to winning a primary.
Sources close to Crowley also touting the possibility of a major endorsement. Some have suggested it could be Governor Tony Evers. So far, Evers hasn't endorsed, but Francesca Hong, who's led in a number of polls among Democrats, was asked about Crowley potentially getting the nod.
He can feel free to endorse if he chooses to get endorsed, and I've trusted the governor to make the decisions that are for the good of all Wisconsinites, and I think all Wisconsinites deserve to have a voice in this race.
Mandela Barnes found out Rodriguez dropped out while recording an interview with Upfront, which also airs on WBAY.
Well, I don't think the challenge is any different than it was before.
Well, Joel Brennan held a news conference in Milwaukee, saying he reached out to Crowley after he ended his campaign, but he hasn't heard back.
He made that decision based on the information that was available to him. My guess is he did some polling and looked at things. I have never wavered on the fact that I'm going to be in this race and I am going to push through this race to the end.
Kelda Roys issued a statement this afternoon saying she's one of only 2 Democrats in the race right now with more than $400,000 cash on hand. Also today, Republican Eric Toney, who's running for AG, called on Josh Call to investigate Rodriguez's campaign finance reports. Back to you.
Jason, thanks. Well, campaign manager for Mandela Barnes issuing a statement on Crowley's decision to re-enter the race, reading in part, quote, "This Hail Mary serves no purpose other than playing spoiler and handing our state to Trump's handpicked candidate in Tom Tiffany," end quote.